Hi, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining our caregiver discussion about finding joy during and after the holidays. I'm Hillary Ebach, COO of Carallel, and I'm thrilled to host the discussion with my Carallel colleagues, Jennifer Piscatello and Perry Mims.
Hi, everyone.
So for those of you who don't know Carallel, we provide assistance and support to family caregivers throughout their caregiving journeys. And our care advocate team, of which Jennifer and Perry are a part, are caregiving experts. We cover a lot of sort of serious topics during the year with our caregiving webinars, and we're going to change it up a little bit today and be effective. Talk about finding joy while you're caregiving during the holidays. We will touch on some of the challenges and stresses of caregiving during the holidays, but also talk about finding joy and meaning. I'm going to be peppering Jennifer and Perry with some questions throughout the next 30 minutes. And then by all means, if you have questions, throw them in the question box. If you have comments, ideas you want to share, throw them in the chat box, and we'll try to address them all during the webinar. If for some reason we don't have time, we'll catch up with you afterwards. So to get us started, would love to hear about all of your situations, who you're caregiving for during the holidays. So I'm gonna go ahead and launch a poll and let us know who you're caring for. It might be someone who lives with you. It might be someone who's far away, and it might be someone who you're just visiting with during the holidays. So, oh my goodness, we have a lot of people caring for parents. Oh, we're getting a few more answers here. So I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. And it looks like we have 83% of you are caring for a parent, and then also some spouses, some children, and other families and friends. And I suspect some of you out there are caring for multiple people. So as we've said a few times, holidays have the possibility of bringing great joy, but they also, let's just acknowledge that there are also stresses that come along with the holidays for everyone, but especially when we're caregiving for a loved one. So Perry, I'm going to direct the first question to you. You want to give us some tips for reducing holiday stress?
Absolutely. And also, I just want to state what Hillary just said. So our caregiving experiences and what kind of caregiver you are could vary a lot. Whether you're one of the people that sees your loved one day to day, face to face regularly. And then on the other hand, there are a lot of people that are traveling in to visit a loved one that don't get to see them in person as often. So these tips about reducing stress apply differently depending on your personal circumstances. So that said, I made a top 5 list when it comes to tips for reducing holiday stress. There are definitely more, but these are my go-to. And number 1 is I feel that it's really important to know that no matter what kind of caregiver you are, it is okay to do what feels best for you. That's one of the main takeaways and tips I think that you're going to find throughout this whole talk today. Secondly, the number 2 tip, as far as activities, meals, gifts, I say simplify. So if you are a caregiver working through a tough situation, it is okay to permit yourself to do just a little bit less. Go ahead, order in, use disposable plates instead of searching and buying and wrapping tons of presents. Maybe come up with a white elephant game or a grab bag for everybody to be involved with. It can just be a really fun, relaxed, and festive way to celebrate the holiday. Number 3 is setting up a little alone time. That can be very helpful in reducing stress. This is easier said than done. And I think we all know that. And it doesn't have to be like a whole afternoon off. It could be something like leaving the room for 5 minutes and going into a quiet space and taking a couple deep breaths before you go back out to the crowd, or even just stepping outside and getting some fresh air for a couple minutes can really be resetting. My personal favorite is the fireplace. So once everybody has left the party or the festivities or the holiday event and it's a little bit quieter, I like to just lay in front of the fireplace and enjoy the warmth and the cozy feelings. Um, One more could be just, you know, very easily putting on a playlist that you love. There's a ton of holiday Spotify or whatever your streaming service may be, or a favorite CD or record. Put it on, enjoy it, sing or don't sing, and just take a little break from what's right in front of you. Number 4 for reducing stress during the holiday season would be to focus on what's most meaningful and try to celebrate what you have right now. Again, not an easy one, but it's really nice to kind of give yourself a little space, not to dwell on the things that are out of your control, and to, again, enjoy what you have right now. And then number 5, which is a big one, is to either ask for help, offer help, or let somebody help you. The holidays are obviously a big time for giving, and I think people really feel valued. Your friends and your family will feel valued when you show them that you trust them enough to let them help you. So there are my top 5. And pretty much what it comes down to is kind of stripping away all the unnecessary busyness and boiling it down to the real meaning of the holidays to you.
I love your fireplace idea, Perry. I think I need to start doing that. So thank you for that tip. So one of the things you mentioned was focus on what's meaningful, and that can sometimes be sort of easier said than done, or it's not really clear how to do that. So Jen, I'm going to pitch this to you. What are some sort of practical ways to find meaning while we're caring for loved ones during the holidays?
Sure. I think it's pretty common for folks to, repeat, traditions. That's how they get created, is like, oh, this is what we did, last year. This is what we've done for the last 10 years or 20 years or 30 years or whatever it might be. But I think one way to strip it down is to give yourself permission to let go of some of those traditions or to modify them, because maybe they involve a lot of time, energy, and expense, but may take away from the real meaning when it becomes stressful to keep up with that same tradition. So for example, if you always cut down a tree and you drive an hour, to this great, tree farm, and you go through the process of, finding a tree, cutting it down, and bringing it back home, that's a lot of time and energy. And maybe the local lot, outside your neighborhood is going to be the way to go this year. So it's okay to rethink some of your traditions. Not necessarily do you need to surrender all of them, but really think about the ones that take a lot of time, energy, and expense. And if those things are increasing your stress and taking away from finding, it to be a meaningful tradition for you. Nothing says that you can't go back to it at another time when when you have those resources available to you. But that's my first thing, is just to really rethink some of your traditions. Next, I would say to just explore the ways that you're getting together, and perhaps, you've always gotten together on the actual holiday, but maybe that just puts too much pressure on it. Maybe getting together at a different time, before, maybe the weekend before or even after, and recognize that you're still celebrating together, but it's not on the actual day, so that you can maybe think about other ways to get together virtually and in person that may stretch out those engagements and ways that you're getting together with people. And also, like, thinking about the actual joy of whatever it is that you're doing. Sometimes we go into things with expectations like cookies. If you always make, 6 or 7 different cookies for that amazing, cookie exchange or, cookie platter, maybe you're not doing so many, or maybe you're letting somebody else help you that may not have the baking expertise that you have, so they might not look as pretty as yours, but they might still accomplish the same goal, and keep the joy in the baking, and just being mindful of the actual experience, and not getting too hung up on perfectionism when it comes to some of those traditions and things, and that ultimately finding joy in spending time together really does bring meaning. And we have to remind ourselves of that, though. Sometimes we get hung up on, the checklist and the to-dos and all that's going on. But really, it comes down to what you're actually doing in the moment, and being mindful of that.
Great, thank you, Jen. I just want to take a second and acknowledge a comment and a question from AMK. So thank you for your comment that you find it to be massively helpful to call in and talk to the care advocates. Thank you. So Jennifer and Perry and the rest of the team. And I see that you have a COVID related question, and we are going to hit that topic at the end. So I'll pitch your specific question to Jennifer and to Perry when we get there. So thank you. So many of you at the beginning answered the poll that you're caring for a parent. So this next topic I think is going to be especially relevant. The holidays can pose some unique challenges for loved ones when they're suffering from Alzheimer's or dementia. And there may be a need to sort of adapt some of our activities in order to enable them to participate. And this can also apply to parents who maybe are just moving a little bit more slowly for whatever reason. So Jen and Perry, any ideas about how we can sort of adapt what we do during the holidays and for those folks?
So Jen, if it's okay with you, I'm going to start, but I'm going to get a little specific. I know this is a broad question,
Right.
but having worked in long-term care settings for a long amount of time, I have to say that there are some particular situations that a lot of our family caregivers are in, and that's when your loved one resides in a long-term care setting, whether that's assisted living, memory care, or skilled nursing facility. So when it comes to kind of adapting holiday activities in that situation, I find that the first thing or the best thing to start with is to find out what celebrations, festivities, or whatever it is going on at the center where your loved one resides. Finding out what's going on, asking or seeing if family can join, if you can join, or other outside family. That can be one really nice way to celebrate. A lot of centers will also be looking for volunteers to, either help decorate, visit with residents who might not have family nearby. So while you're visiting your loved one, you might be able to, really bring a lot of love and life, your laughter into that person's life as well. So that's something that could be really nice. Or sometimes there's activities like holiday musicals or sing-alongs that, family and friends coming in and being a part of that can really add to the joy, not just for your loved one, but for the entire community. Then in some cases, people are wanting to take their loved ones that are residing in a long-term care setting home for the day, for whatever holiday it might be that you're celebrating with family and friends. In this case, it's really important to give the center, to set it up with them in advance. That way, the staff at the center will be able to help prepare your loved one, make sure they've got on a great outfit, or that, that their hair is done the way that they want it to be done for leaving and going to see the family. There's a lot of dignity related to that, and it's important to be respectful as much as you can. You can also make sure that the staff sends any medications or supplies with you when you go home with your loved one, so that you have everything set up for it to be a successful visit. Also keep in mind that different types of centers have different policies and guidelines about taking your loved one home. So this is another reason to call in advance and figure out whatever barriers there might be to that. Especially with skilled nursing facilities, they might require a note from the physician that it's okay for them to leave for the day, or there might be a time limitation. And also one of the really nice things about working with the center that your family member, your friend is in, is that if that person is receiving therapies, occupational therapy, physical therapy, or treatments, they can schedule it so that they are still receiving the treatment that day before or after the event that they've left for, so that there's not really a gap in the services that they need. Um, and then, so those were my specific ones for people that are living in long-term care centers. But I think Jen has some great ideas on whether that person that you're caring for is already living at home or once you have gotten them home.
Yeah, I love those tips, Terry, and they're so important too to make sure that you are in constant communication. And when if you are bringing your loved one home, or if your loved one is already at home, either with you or not, either way, when you're gathering, there are some definitely some good tips to keep in mind, so that again, you all have a very successful day, and that really some of those things are like keeping your groups small or more intimate, to avoid any overstimulation, whether it's somebody who has dementia, which is very important, but also others that might have, hearing loss or vision, or just don't have the stamina, to be talking in large groups. Keeping things small and intimate does avoid that overstimulation. And being in a familiar and comfortable surrounding is great too. So while it may seem like wonderful to, go to a new, place, or whether it's a restaurant, or if you're, gone for a few days, to be in a new place, sometimes that does actually not benefit everybody, especially somebody who's aging or has any major health concerns. That can be very challenging and unsettling if they're in a new place that they're not familiar with. So familiar, comfortable, and small so far is the goal here. And one of the things that I think is important to keep in mind is the timing of your event. So many times it's like, oh, an evening festivity, holiday gathering type thing, but that may not be the best time of day for your loved one. So if that's the case, then, move that party up and have it at, a midday brunch or something earlier in the afternoon, where it's going to be most successful for your loved one that you're caring for. It may be a slight adjustment to the traditions you've had, as I mentioned earlier, but it's really wonderful if you can keep that those kinds of details in mind, so that it's a great day for everybody. And just kind of on the same idea as Perry was saying, where you might need the private time for yourself, give your loved one some privacy too, a quiet place to go, or maybe setting up a place where one-on-one engagement can happen, where maybe if it's your aging parents, that the grandchildren are able to come in and sit one-on-one with them, or in a group of a small group, but having a quiet place where they can hear, where they can focus a little bit more, might really be beneficial for them to avoid any hiccups there. And then when we're thinking about food and decor, this is important to kind of keep it simple, especially when it comes with food. A lot of times we're having foods that are not part of our regular routine or regular diet. And it's really important to know that that can have an impact on your loved one if they're eating, foods that just may upset their digestive system or whatever it might be. So keeping in mind too what they typically are having, what their routine normally includes. And then as far as decorations, keeping those simple too, because sometimes there's flashy lights and a lot of heavy decor, whether there's cords, that's a safety hazard. So keep in mind, like if you have extension cords to get those lights going, things like that, just to sort of limit and keeping things simple, but still obviously being festive and things like that. But I think keeping some of these things in mind, if at all possible, I think will just benefit everybody that is part of the celebration.
Jen, I love that you added diet in there, not going crazy with that, because also a lot of our loved ones are on medications that might have
Mhm.
interactions with certain with certain foods,
Mhm.
or they might be suffering from, they might have diabetes, or they might be on dialysis. And these are all things where like the intention is so good, right? Yes,
Mhm.
have your favorite pie. Yes, like all the different things. But it's important to kind of, you know, remember that there are consequences sometimes, and maybe it's just not worth it. So just putting it out there, that I thought that was a really good one.
Yeah, good reminder for all of us.
Right?
Yeah, and I wish I had had some of these tips years ago, because I got to say I really could have benefited from them when I was caring for my mom with dementia. So thank you. So let's talk a little bit about family dynamic. Family dynamics during the holidays can be tricky, whether or not we're caring for loved ones, but maybe especially when we're caring for someone. And there's differing understandings maybe among family members about a loved one's condition or what their care should be, or different opinions. It can be sort of tricky. So maybe Perry, any tips for navigating family dynamic?
Not always an easy one, for sure. I agree. Although, on some level, I think that we build it up that there's gonna be an issue, right? Because we're expecting it. Like you're expecting your uncle to say something at Thanksgiving that's going to be off-putting, but sometimes it doesn't even happen. So this is something we might worry about a little bit more than it actually happens. And since we're focusing this webinar on joy, let's all hope that it doesn't come up, and that we don't have to deal with it, but it is important to be prepared, right? So yes, starting with preparation, exactly. So prepare your family that's visiting about your loved one's condition. This is you know, changes in memory, changes in ability to do things for yourself, movement limitations. It's good to set the expectation so that when people are coming, or you're coming, right, to visit and you haven't seen them in a while, that things might not be exactly the same. Over a period of time, there might have been a decline or changes. And when somebody walks in the door and is not prepared to witness that, they might have kind of a negative reaction. And trust me, the person that you're caring for can easily pick up on that. And by preparing everybody and kind of getting them on the same page before walking in the door, it's just going to be a happier meet and greet altogether. Um, Along with that, again, if you are coming from out of town and you're not sure what to expect, maybe have a phone conversation with whoever's been closest with that person that you care for over the period of time, so that they can help you set your expectations appropriately. Um, then, when you're all together in one space, whether it's family or friends, and yes, we all have different dynamics, and it can be interesting at times. But what it is also is when you're all together with your loved one that needs care, it's a good time for everybody to realize exactly where that person is, because everybody's seeing the same thing at the same time. So that is kind of a benefit to this, whether it's a good change or a bad change. It cuts out a lot of these conversations on back and forth about, I'm telling you, I don't think grandma's memory is what it used to be. And somebody would be like, oh, it's fine. But when they're sitting and you're all experiencing something together, it's really easy for you to all get on the same page. Um, at the same time, I would try to avoid any type of family meeting, especially in front of your loved one, which might make them feel ganged up upon. I know that this happens sometimes with elderly parents if you're going to visit them and you realize some things don't seem exactly how they used to be. This is not the time to have that big conversation. You can wait till after dinner, whatever it is, and set up a separate family meeting for something like that. But I would try to avoid it during the holiday itself. Um, and then on a more somber note, a lot of us have lost family members, loved ones over the last year. Um, this isn't something that you need to pretend didn't happen. It's okay to make note of it. You could do something like, I don't know, make their favorite dish or put on their favorite album, decorate with memorabilia on the table or anything like that, or raise a toast to their memory. It has been a very hard year for a lot of people, and a lot of us have experienced, um, loss. So I do think it's nice that, when you have the family and the friends together, that it's okay to mention these things, talk about it. It doesn't have to take over the whole evening, but it is a way to kind of share that grief together so that you can all like move forward together as well.
Actually, Perry, that I'll just share a personal story here about a loss that we had in our family. My mother-in-law passed a year ago, and my father-in-law, with every time we have a family gathering, brings this candle that he received as a gift, and it's got a really nice message on there about remembering our loved one, and he lights it every time we sit down to have a meal, and it's sort of like his way of like including her, and it's just a nice remembrance of her, and it's so meaningful to him, and it's it's just been a nice way to remember her as well. So it's been great. It's good to have those conversations and to remember folks that are not with us in person.
Cannot tell you how much I love that.
Great. So I'm going to change it up a little bit now because we sort of promised to keep these webinars to 30 minutes, and we got 4 minutes to go. So Jen was going to share a few ideas, just fun ideas to make the holidays more joyful. So I'm going to promise, I'm going to put some work on your plate, Jen, that we'll shoot an email out afterwards and just provide a few ideas, because I want to make sure that we can hit a few other issues. I'm also going to skip a question we were going to ask you, which was, what is your favorite holiday movie? So if you want to throw that into the chat box, feel free. Would love to hear it. So let's talk about COVID, our favorite topic. We just got to acknowledge that although we're in a far different place than we were last year, it's still an issue. And I was going to ask Perry about some ideas about how people can sort of stay safe. And then actually, I'm going to throw out a specific question from AMK as well, which is, can we address the ongoing issue of COVID and not joining extended family when they're pushy and accusing the caregiver of making the decision for the loved one? So maybe you can sort of address that while you're giving some tips.
AMK, I feel you, for sure. So just to start off, yes, this has been going on for some time. Yes, I'm just as, COVID fatigued as everybody else here. I think what it really comes down to is to trust yourself and your judgment as a caregiver. Okay, that's number one. You've been doing this. You know what kind of care your loved one needs. You've been managing this for, I don't even know how long, right? Has it been a year and a half? Somewhere around there. Okay. Trust yourself in your judgment. And then also, as far as these gatherings, it's okay to ask about vaccination status. It is okay to limit guests or ask them to take COVID tests prior to a gathering if that's something that makes you more comfortable. Be upfront about masks. If you have the expectation that your loved ones, or other people when they're visiting your loved one need to wear a mask, stick to your guns, okay? At the same time, we know that some people with Alzheimer's and dementia do not respond well to that. And as a caregiver, I'm going to, again, say, use your judgment. And then you can always lean on the CDC guidelines for safe gatherings during the holidays. When you're dealing with those family members that are maybe don't have the same take on it as you do, you can also send them links to the CDC if that's something that works well for you. But again, what it comes down to is trust yourself and your judgment as a caregiver.
That's great. Thank you. So the title of this webinar was Finding Joy During and After the Holidays. So we're going to do the speed version, guys, about some New Year's resolutions. So how can we be more joyful, less stressed as caregivers in the new year? So Jen and Perry, you want to offer us some New Year's resolutions?
You go, Jen.
Okay. The first one is mentioned earlier, and it is important to ask for help and, more importantly, accept the help. So just be ready with what they can help you with. So when you get asked, you are ready with an answer. And if they don't ask, then just say, you know what, thank you so much for offering. I will get back to you. And then you follow up with them with exactly what you need them to do.
Love it. I say make a goal for yourself, not you as a caregiver, just you. Make a goal for yourself, whether that's, something that I know I've liked is trying to adjust my bedtime routine a little bit, putting down the screen before bed so that my sleep is a little better. This is huge. Or, keeping, getting a hobby or something to do to keep yourself healthy or interested, or something that makes you not just a caregiver.
Absolutely. My last thing is journaling. That's something that I've talked about. I've dabbled a little bit here and there, but starting a journal at the start of the year just feels like a great idea. So, whether it's writing just a quick sentence or one or two things, maybe it'll develop. And there's so many cool journals out there. So just Google, daily self, personal journal, something along those lines, and find something that really resonates with you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So AMK, I know you have one other question. So we're going to, about support groups. So we're going to follow up with you directly via email and get that question answered. And so with that, again, just want to stay within, respect your time. We're hitting our 30-minute mark. So just want to thank you. Please do join us for our next webinar on January 19th. It's going to be about home safety, specifically home safety tips to prevent falls for your loved ones. So there'll be a registration link on an email you're going to get after this email or after this webinar. So just thank you so much for joining us, and we wish you the happy holidays and the best of luck while you're caring for your loved ones. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Happy holidays.
Bye.
Bye-bye.